Hello, dear friends. Greetings from Mount Angel. I wanted to tell you today about a poet that I very much admire. The Polish poet Czesław Miłosz, who was the 1980 poet laureate, the Nobel poet laureate, and lived his life. He's deceased now, about 15 years, but he lived his life through the better part of the 20th centuries. And at the height of World War II, he was a young man there in Poland, suffering in Warsaw the attempt to destroy the whole city of Warsaw. It was a terrible war for the Polish people, terrible war for everyone. But this poet, during that war, published all kinds of lyric poetry. He made no reference at all to the horrors of this war. And he was sharply criticized at the time, and then for many years later, for not referring in his poetry to the horrors of this war. Now, why do I mention that? Because I'm impressed by this, and I would say somehow guided by what he did there. Look, my friends, I know there's a pandemic going on. I know there's a terrible economic crisis. I know the pandemic is now also politicized and we're fighting like crazy over it. I know that there's terrible racial injustice in this country, and then riots about that are destroying our cities. I know that. You know that too. I also know that the political scene in our country is very divisive and is heating up and seems like it will get worse. And the same in the Catholic Church. There's all sorts of things that we're fighting about and scandals that we're mad about and ways we think the liturgy should be or not be, and on it goes. And Miłosz said about his poetry, in defense of his lyric poetry, he says, "My poetry is an act of defiance placed into the inhumanity of the world." So, friends, in the midst of all these challenging things that we're all facing, I've talked to you about the resurrection of Jesus, about his ascension and the descent of the Holy Spirit. I've talked to you for weeks now about how we can really deepen our prayer life and so forth. I'm not avoiding those issues. I'm talking to them. The gospel of Jesus is an act of defiance placed into the inhumanity of the world. I just feel I need to explain myself to you and why I'm talking about these things now. And you, my dear friends and Christians, you can contribute to this terrible situation in our world and in our country by the lyric poetry of your prayer, of your virtuous life. St. Paul says in his letter to the Galatians in warning, "Listen, brothers and sisters, if you go on biting and devouring one another, you will be consumed by one another." And right after that, he goes on to say, "But what I say to you is walk by the Spirit, and do not give in to the desires of the flesh." And he then defines what he means by desires of the flesh. He says it's anger, dissension, party spirit, jealousy, backbiting. He says walk instead by the Spirit. Charity, peace, patience, long-suffering, kindness, gentleness, and self-control. Here's what all of these troubled situations need from us Christians. And we monks of Mount Angel are trying to live that way in these troubled times, and we want to encourage you to do the same. Bless you.